Hello! Today we're going to be playing Thousand Empty Light, a solo adventure in the Mothership Tabletop RPG. Thousand Empty Light is created by Alfred Valley. I'm DarthVegan, and we're going to go on a solo adventure. If you've never played Mothership, or if you've never heard of Mothership, Mothership is a tabletop RPG set in a sci-fi cosmic horror universe. But I'm not going to go over how to play Mothership. We're going to talk about it as we go through the adventure. This is a solo play, so there is no game master, just me. I'm the game master, or as it's called in Mothership, the Warden, and I'm also the player. And so we're going to be using a narrative style of play to come to our conclusions on all of our roles and things that we do. And I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. Depths kill. Center yourself. Personnel are advised not to proceed past this point if they have heightened sensitivity to darkness, tight spaces, marine wildlife, peril, bodily harm, or extreme solitude. Issued by the Hazmos Corporation. This is the Thousand Empty Light TEL 022 UPB 154 Manual of Operation for solo operators. Now, something I really like about this, just from the get-go, is that this adventure is written from the perspective of the company that we are working for, Hazmos. The entire manual comes across as a in-game manual, so it's a kind of breaking the meta, breaking the fourth wall, you know, telling us all about the adventure at the same time, keeping 100% within the voice of the game. Very cool. I like that a lot. So here is a message from the director of Hazmos, Shale Louvet, who is the director. The backbone of our business is the status quo. Reliability, resilience, resourcefulness. These are the virtues that Hazmos provide as the backbone of the settled cosmos. In the light and in the dark, the blaze and the chill, the peaks and the depths, we are the quiet constant keeping the lights on. Nowhere is this better exemplified than in our force of Lamplighter. Your hard work to maintain the most challenging sites under our purview is not taken for granted. TEL 022, the affectionately named Thousand Empty Light, is considered one of the most unique sites in our portfolio. This year marks the 5th anniversary of being awarded this service contract. I am confident that no other corporation could provide such uncompromising attention to its singular demands. Embrace the purity of your profession. Whatever the environment, the job remains the same. Restore power where there is stasis, light where there is darkness. You carry the torch of an esteemed club of professionals. Please join me in taking this moment to remember the Lamplighters who have fallen in the line of duty at TEL 022. And you can see there's a sticker placed over these lists of names of previous Lamplighters. Maybe I could zoom in a little bit so you can see maybe a little better. There's obviously names underneath this white sticker that says no recorded fatalities. There's lots of fatalities, so I think that's really nice. I like that a lot. All right, so here's a little bit of information about the planet that we're on. Unadopted Planetary Body 154, abbreviated UPB 154. It's uninhabited and classed as hostile for the purposes of colonization. TEL 022 is the only known artificial structure on the planet. The high level of electromagnetic interference in UPB-154's atmosphere renders secure planet-to-craft communication impossible. No SATCOMs are to be made from TEL-022. TEL-022, say that 10 times fast, is constructed from reinforced steel assembled in 5 sections, spanning a length of approximately 1 kilometer. The bore of the tunnel is roughly 50 meters in diameter at its widest. Impressed current cathodic protection is in place due to the extreme salinity of the water on UPB-154. In places, the tunnel narrows where the structure has corroded and improvised repair has taken place. Access to the tunnel is via pneumatic caisson at the western end. This descends 70 meters to the entrance of Section 1. Due to the depth, the work site is classed as an increased atmospheric pressure environment. All workers are required to undergo hyperbaric intervention. Controlled compression to the working depth occurs at the top of the caisson. Sections 1 through 5 are considered unlit and unpowered. Lamplighters are required to move through to the eastern end of each section to activate the backup generators in the respective control booths. Memocom modules with hand-crank generators are located at either end of each section for the purpose of leaving voice-recorded maintenance reports. See procedure, page 3. So you can see this is a map of the facility. We're going to come down this caisson, which is basically a cylindrical tunnel that starts at the surface of the water. And then you go down and then you can enter into the facility from that caisson. This is a real thing that they use. Caissons are real structures they use to build things underwater, like foundations of bridges and tunnels and other things like that. So that's pretty cool. And then I guess we will extricate ourselves from a secondary caisson on the other side of this facility. Our objectives are to restore light and power to all sections of TEL-022 and return to the western caisson for airlift. Any additional objectives specified in clearance, page 6. Okay. So the background is that the main generator at TEL-022 is permanently out of action, and the backup protocol is in place. The 5 sections are designed to be able to function as self-contained units in the event of a site lockdown, and so each has its own backup generator. Power outages, however, are frequent. Without power, the tunnel is at risk of corrosion and structural deterioration. Please note, to ensure safe pressurization, the doors to each section will remain locked until the previous section has been powered up to a minimum of 10 minutes. The eastern caisson is out of bounds. Follow best practice guidelines. The areas, caisson, and sections 1 through 5, each contain 2 Memocon modules, one on either end, for maintenance report playback and recording. Due to the communication limitations on UPB-154 and pending future implementations, the recordings are held locally to each area. So our workflow is to enter each area, access the Memocom module at the entrance and consult, do a visualized overview of the area, a transcript of report made by the previous Lamplighter. We will use an Oracle system while navigating the control booth at the far end of the area, and we will do that to reinstate power and lighting for area and record the maintenance report using the Memocon module. We will check for depth complications, consulting the panic reference as well. So the Oracle is a system generated by this particular module that allows us to play without a warden, play wardenless, play solo Mothership. Oracles are pretty common, I guess, in solo TTRPGs. This is my first time to do a solo TTRPG. So bear with me as I try to navigate the complexities of playing against myself, or otherwise you could state that in another way that might get me censored. And the panic is a reference to one of the mechanics in Mothership. But in this particular module, I think we have to panic after each section for whatever reason, which is a little strange for me. But I don't get it in reference to how the rest of the Mothership is played, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. A high-value asset is situated in TEL-022. As outlined in your non-disclosure agreement, it is forbidden to discuss this asset or the circumstances of its containment with anyone unless permitted by your Hazmos security coordinator. Do not interact with the high-value asset. Now, I'm gathering so far from this that Hazmos may not be the owner of TEL-022. In fact, I guess it is not. They said we earned this contract somehow through Hazmos to be Lamplighter's and help maintain this facility. So I don't think Hazmos owns this station, this underwater station. It is instead, we're just being paid to keep the lights on, so to speak, and do maintenance. All right, so this is the Oracle system. Maintenance in TEL-022 follows the Oracle system, and they made it into an acronym here, which is interesting. But this basically tells you the workflow of the game. How do we play the game? When we enter spaces for the first time, when circumstances require it, or simply if in doubt, conduct a visual check of your surrounding environment, making reference to the semiotic standard. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Then you will decide on an appropriate course of action, making use of your skills and equipment where relevant. We will act where we will attempt our course of action. We will conclude by determining the outcome of the action and whether follow-up action is required. And then we will leave evidence and record near collisions, accident precursors, and any identified hazards using our incident and near-miss form. Additionally, we can record a maintenance report at the next Memocom module you encounter. Research shows that completing a cursory scan of an average size room takes an average of 3 minutes times the current personnel stress level. Again, stress level is a mechanic of the Mothership game. Okay, so our mandatory training: industrial equipment, recommended training, mechanical repair and jury rigging. Personnel entering TEL-022 must undergo a medical examination to assess their fear, sanity, and body response. Medical staff will need to confirm Lamplighters possess a minimum stress estimate not exceeding 2. These statistics must be noted on your character reference. In addition to your class loadout, you will be provided with a flashlight, a rebreather, and a dive gauge. And so, please report for duty with an up-to-date character reference. So here is our character reference. My character's name is Devon. He identifies as a he, him. He is a Teamster class, which means he's like a blue-collar worker in the Mothership universe. His stats are here, and the way Mothership works is whenever you try to do something, you have to roll against your relevant stat, and you roll 2 d10s, and if you roll below your stat, you succeed. If you roll above your stat, you fail, and you gain a level of stress. Likewise, whenever something happens to you, you have to make a save. You have a sanity save, a fear save, and a body save. Once again, you roll 2 d10s. If you roll below your save, you succeed. If you roll above your save, you fail and gain stress and or wounds, health, damage, whatever. My health is 20. I don't know why it's just showing the 2 and part of the 0, but it's 20. We have 0 out of 2 wounds currently, so that's good. Our stress starts at 2. You always start at 2 stress when you're playing a game of Mothership. As a Teamster, once per session, I can get advantage on a panic check, which is good. And also, when you're doing your rolls, if you get a double-digit roll and it's a success, then it's called a critical success, and then something good happens. If you get a double digit and it is a failure, it's a critical failure and something bad happens. Up here are my skills. I have industrial equipment, which is one of the requirements, but that's okay. That's one of the Teamster skills anyway. That gives me a +10 on any check that I use that requires that skill. I have 0G training, which gives me a +10 as well. That helps me move around in space and in a vac suit. I have rimwise technology. That just means I'm used to being on the fringe of society. That gives me a +10. You can sometimes use that for certain combat roles and things like that. We also have mechanical repair, which is an expert skill, which gives me a +15 in that as well. Skill training is something you can do if you live through your campaigns. You can get training on skills and increase your skills through a percentage. It's very expensive though and time consuming. My equipment is a vac suit. It gives me an armor of 3. The way the armor works is it is damage reduction. So if you take less than 3 damage, it blocks that damage from hurting you. If you take more than 3 damage in one hit, however, it destroys your armor value. We still have the vac suit, but it will no longer provide us armor. We also have a flashlight and a trench shovel. Trench shovel is my personal trinket, and we will use it for part of my backstory as we go, if that comes up. And I also have a red gear patch on my vac suit. It's just a patch of a red gear. Its significance will also be revealed as the story progresses. I have 110 credits, which is not good. That's why I'm taking this crappy job, because I need some money. All right. I do have a revolver with 6 rounds. It provides me the 1d10 plus 1 damage. And I have a crowbar, which is a 1d5, which is a d10, and then you subtract 5, and that's your damage. Okay. This is Devon Valentine. And here is a picture of Devon. It's him in all his glory, younger guy. Okay. So that's, we're not going to go through this. This is like a little bonus cheat sheet thing that you can do, but we're not going to worry about that. Okay. The greatest hazard is carelessness. Okay. So there are several hazards here in TEL 022. Depth complications. Working at depth presents considerable risk of decompression sickness and nitrogen narcosis. As stated in workflow, personnel should regularly check the panic reference to effectively manage depth complications. At the very minimum, this should occur when transitioning between sections and when facing repercussions from incidents and near misses. So decompression sickness, aka Caisson disease, the bends. After reaching working depth, uncontrolled depressurization can cause decompression sickness. Susceptibility varies between individuals and is unpredictable, gives these symptoms confusion, memory loss, fatigue, and so forth. You can use a hyperbaric chamber to get short-term treatment of decompression sickness. Also, nitrogen narcosis. Breathing air under pressure can cause narcosis, resulting in reduced mental function. The effects of narcosis may present serious risk factors in an industrial environment. Symptoms include impairment of judgment, loss of coordination, etc. And here's an example of someone before exposure and then someone under a narcosis episode. You can see that they can't draw the same thing reliably. Some of the other hazards here in the station: unlit areas. Without power, each section of TEL 022 is completely unlit. Personnel should use Hazmos issued flashlights to navigate between control booths. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to do. I need to write down that we have this additional equipment: a dive gauge, a rebreather, and another flashlight. So I'm going to go ahead and do a rebreather and a dive gauge. Hello. Okay. And then also we have 2 flashlights because I already had a flashlight and we got an extra one, so that's fine. We're good. There also is corrosive seawater. Prolonged exposure to the seawater on UPB 154 can cause degradation to personal equipment, exposed skin, and the working environment. There's been reports of intruders on the site. It's an attractive target for scrappers looking to resell metal parts and machinery. If you encounter intruders, clearly state that they are trespassing on private property and will be prosecuted. Otherwise, keep your distance and stay vigilant. Be prepared to report on their details on the next MemoCom module you encounter. Cornered intruders may become violent. It is not my intent to fight these intruders. If we do encounter them, I'm not security detail. I'm just maintenance, right? So this is the stats of an intruder if we do come upon them during our adventures. Flooding may occur locally in sections. Rebreather equipment is provided for navigating submerged thoroughfares. Prolonged submersion greatly increases the chance of issues related to corrosive seawater and depth complications. I do have this rebreather, however, I also have my vac suit. My vac suit protects me from the dangers of space and or underwater. The vac suit, however, does give me disadvantage on any speed rolls that I make because it is cumbersome. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that if you take 0G training, I think it might, it does away with that disadvantage from the vac suit. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's how I'm going to play it. So if we look at the survival guide rules for vac suits, says include short range comms, headlamp, radiation shielding, decompression within 1d5 rounds if punctured, disadvantaged for speed. My oxygen inside of that lasts 12 hours. And if we come down to the skills for your skills somewhere. Here we are, 0G. Practice and know-how of working in a vacuum, orientation, vac suit operation, etc. I don't know. Let me know how you feel about that. I feel like if you have 0G training, you're used to working in a vac suit, and so you shouldn't get that disadvantage. I don't know, maybe. Well, we get a bonus, so maybe not. Maybe not. There are also spindle graft crabs inside the station. This is their stats. And some other things. I don't want to get spoiled by reading all the different things that we can possibly come across. So, okay. There are some specialist equipments here inside the facility. If we come across any of these, we will come and read the description of that. This one I do find interesting, a flechette gun. To prevent potential structural damage, the use of traditional firearms has been tightly regulated. And here I am bringing in my revolver, but whatever. That's it is what it is. All right. Your Palmarine class craft airlift will drop you at the offshore platform adjoining to the Caisson. Check surface level generator, enter the Caisson, and progress from section to section with caution. Before drop-off, familiarize yourself with the reference sheet at the end of this document. Do not proceed beyond this point unless adequately prepared. We are prepared. Serve God, honor the corporation, but first, maintain the light. I guess that is Hazmos' company motto. All right, here is our letter of last resort, form number 9L. Nothing's to be written on this sheet except the date and signature of the sender. Sentences not required may be deleted. If anything else is added, the letter will be destroyed. This is how Devon is going to fill this out. My dear parents,
my circle parents. I must leave you. My total... Oh, this is for admin use, so I don't fill this part out. My total loss of life, loss of faculty, or transfigurement is not in vain, for I have departed doing what I love. I want to say thank you for everything. I will always be with you. Signed, Devon Valentine. And then the date. All right. So we are getting dropped off here at Caisson West by our shuttle. It is not recommended to stay on the exposed offshore platform for extended amounts of time due to the likelihood of force 10+ gale conditions. Welcome to TEL-022. Please ensure the entrance is properly sealed before proceeding. The new mate helper unit will guide you through the compression process. You may experience some discomfort as your body adjusts. Whilst you wait to reach working level pressurization, please consider completing a letter of last report 9L using the form provided in your TEL-022 manual of operation. We just did that. After pressurization, you will be guided to the personnel lift. Descent to Section 1 takes approximately 200 seconds. Do not use the freight lift. The holding area at the base of the caisson houses an emergency hyperbaric chamber, washing station, and supply lockers for personal protective equipment. Section 1 is accessed via a decontamination corridor and sealed door. Check your panic before proceeding. Okay, so this is the first part of the actual mission here. So what we'll do is we'll be dropped off here at this platform, and we're going to take the Caisson elevator down this 70 meters to this room. This is the floor plan of the room. This is the small elevator we're going to be using. The freight elevator is this big one from the Caisson up above. I suppose this in the corner is the hyperbaric chamber with some supply lockers and things, and a washing station down here that we can access if we like. And then we will go to B here, and I suppose we will turn on the generator for this room and then proceed to the next section. All right, let's do it. So we come on to the caisson here, and we are going to be helped by the new mate helper, which I suppose is a robotic device of some sort. And they will guide us through the compression process, and we will come on down the caisson and descend to here. And the first thing we need to do is check the MemCon console for this room at our arrival. It is dark. We do have our flashlight, so we're going to observe around us, and we're going to read the MemCon entry of the previous Lamplighter. Now, something interesting about this is this module came with some actual sound files for these readings.
West Caisson A.
I've got a bone to pick. If you leave a form for people to fill, maybe make sure you leave a working pen. Just a suggestion. Must be a pressure thing. My wife and son will have to go without reading my impassioned parting words. As you may have established, I have arrived at the Caisson. I'm soaking. The waves nearly carried me off. It's daytime. Well, you can see that from the timestamp, but it's dark out there. Might as well be twilight. And there go my ears.
I guess he's descending
West
there.
Caisson B.
Quite the welcome party down here. The lift doors opened and I was greeted by hundreds of dead crabs. Took me a while to be sure they were all dead, what with the torch casting shadows. The ground is damp and loose. I don't trust the floor on the west side. Stepping through these crab bits sure was unpleasant. The hyperbaric chamber is sealed shut. The supply lockers seem empty. Typical. So here we are. The way the others talk about this place, you'd think it was a haunted house or something. The sound down here does do weird things. They'd probably piss themselves. And then there's this groaning noise. I would bet that that's the water outside. You know, it could almost be peaceful if you close your eyes. I'm proceeding to section 1. Wait, gotta make my panic check. 70 meters, it says in the manual. Either that's just plain wrong, or my gauge is out by a lot. Can you hear that?
All right, cool. So a few things. We will use this description of the Caisson to ask the Oracle questions about how we should proceed. So we know a few things about the Caisson here, and I'm just going to note them in my log here. It's just pen and paper. We know that the pressure causes his ears to feel compressed. That's not even noteworthy. That's just is what it is. There was hundreds of dead crabs, which is interesting. So I'm thinking maybe this station is not fully enclosed. Perhaps it has a tide pool or some other method for things to go, maybe submersibles or something to go into the water outside without having to go through an airlock. So you can use something like a tide pool or something to pressurize a room, and then you can just enter the water and then go outside through that methodology. I learned that from Subnautica. So maybe there's something like that, and that's how these crabs are getting into the room. There's obviously not a tide pool in this particular room, but maybe somewhere in the station there is a tide pool. We'll take a look around and see what we can find out. So also he said the ground is damp and loose, and you don't trust the floor on the west side. So I'm going to say the west side of the floor is loose. And he references using a torch. I'm guessing he is of British descent, and references flashlights as torches. The hyperbaric chamber is sealed shut, he says. So we might ask some questions about that. And the supply lockers are empty. Okay. And then he said he heard some weird noises, a groaning, and other things. Could be just the water. Could be something else. Could be the more crabs, right? Who knows? We'll try to do some investigation to find out. All right, so I'm looking around with my flashlight. I see, obviously, right outside the elevator, I can see the hyperbaric chamber taking up the corner of the room. I also see a little doorway. It's not an actual door, it's just an entryway into a little alcove that has some sinks and looks like stand-up showers and things. And then off to my right is row upon row of lockers. Look like lockers in a typical locker room, you know, top shelf, bottom shelf. Some of them appear to be empty. Some of them are open. Some of them are closed. So maybe we'll do some investigation about that. So the first thing I want to do, looking around with my flashlight, and here is the map here. So you can see the hyperbaric chamber, the washroom, and then the lockers. And then I guess this area here is going to be the generator and the memocon where I can record my statement. So first thing we want to do is we want to roll. I'm going to go to take note. This is page 26. I don't want to look at be spoiled by the next section. So here are the combined systems semiotic standard, which is how we do our Oracle thing. And it's kind of a little bit hard to read. But basically what we do is we ask the Oracle a question, and then it will give us a response based on our roll. It's a D50 roll. So we'll take a D100, and then we will subtract 50 from it. And it will be our answer. And it could be a yes, could be a no, could be a yes but, or a no but. And then we can proceed on with whatever information we glean from that. I'm going to be using D&D Dice Roller for my rolls, just so that we can have a nice place to see the result here. And you can tell that I'm not cheating. I don't think I get any bonuses on these rolls unless I'm using a skill to do something. So I think just looking around and referencing the Oracle, I don't get any bonuses in those particular things. So the first thing I want to do when I'm looking around is I want to check, are there still hundreds of crabs in this room? Are there still hundreds of crabs in this room? So I'm going to roll my 2d10s, that's D100. Okay. I rolled a 9. All right. So move this over here. So I rolled a 9. No. Hello, future DarthVegan here. I did realize when I made the 2d10 roll that I should have taken the result of each of those and made the first digit the tens digit and the second digit the ones digit, and then get my D100 roll from those 2d10s. But for whatever reason, I just accepted the first. I just accepted the sum of the two as a result instead of doing a D100 basically. So I do that for the entirety of this first Caisson room, and then I realize my mistake and I start doing it correctly after that. But forgive me, I don't know why I was just caught up in the moment, I guess, and was just eating what they fed me, so to speak. I do realize my mistake, and I do correct it in the future, but I do realize I quote-unquote cheated myself during this first room. I'm basically going to always get no answers because I'm always going to get lower than 20. And so it kind of works for me and against me in that situation. But anyway, I learned from it, and we'll move forward, and thanks for watching. Interesting. So the crabs are all gone. So there's no crabs. But it does say there's some interference or an idea of confusion or obscurity. So for there's no crabs now, referenced by the previous Lamplighter. So I'm a little confused about who has been here to clean up these crabs. Someone must have done it, or either that or some creature came in and devoured them. But it's a little unusual that there are no remains even. So I'm going to ask the Oracle, do I see any remains of like crabs, like a broken shell or maybe a loose leg or something laying around that might indicate something ate them? Let's roll a 7. 7 is no. But there is an explosion risk or a deconstruction volatility. Interesting. So while there were no crab parts around, there does seem to be evidence of some damage in this room. Like some sort of damage has been done. There's chinks in the walls where the metal has been scratched and dented, looking like something happened that was kind of violent in the removal of the crabs, perhaps. All right. Well, I do want to take a look at this hyperbaric chamber. So I'm going to walk over to the hyperbaric chamber with my flashlight. I'm going to shine it around, take a look at it. Is the hyperbaric chamber still sealed? I rolled another 7. Wow. Okay. It is not sealed. but there is an explosion risk of deconstruction and volatility. So the hyperbaric chamber, like the rest of the room, has been severely damaged. It looks like something broke it very violently. Like maybe there was an explosion, maybe it overpressurized, or maybe it's the oxygen inside exploded. There's some scorch marks around it. And it looks like there's pieces of the hyperbaric chamber around on the floor. I could make a check and see if it's salvageable, if it's something I could fix. But it is unusual. So we definitely won't be able to use this to decompressurize ourselves or to pressurize ourselves if we get violently decompressed. So that's not good. So the hyperbaric chamber is destroyed. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. If we walk over to the west side of the room where the wash area is, I'm going to just test out the floor there. What is the condition of the floor? Is it still feeling loose or does it feel intact? So let me say, is the floor intact in the west side of the room? Another 7. Wow, I'm rolling sevens of all varieties. So I got a 1-6, a 5-2, and now a 3-4. This die roller really loves its 7s. So no, the floor is not intact. In fact, it has been explosively destroyed. And I'm thinking maybe the explosion from the hyperbaric chamber is what damaged the floor further, and maybe perhaps that's what damaged the room. But what happened to all the crabs? We don't know. We don't know at this time. So the floor around the wash area has been severely damaged in an explosion. And we could spend some time trying to fix it. We are mechanics, but I'd have to have parts and things like that. So let's check the supply lockers and see if there's any spare parts or supplies that we will not be able to use. So I'm going to go ahead and roll again. This time I got a 15, thank goodness. Is there anything in the supply lockers that we might be able to find? 15. No, but there are some foodstuffs. Okay, so there's no supplies, but I have found a few MREs, so a few packaged meals. I didn't bring any food with me, at least it wasn't indicated that I brought some food, so I think I might take a couple of MREs with me just in case we're down here for an experienced amount of time. How many MREs did we find? It doesn't say. Let's just roll a 1d6 and say how many did we find? We found 4 MREs. Okay, so that should be enough for 4 meals. You can live for several days without food, but obviously we would get disadvantage on things if we're hungry. And so we want to make sure we have enough food for this, at least this trip. So I'm going to say if we're very, very strict on ourselves, we could probably get by with 1 meal a day. Hopefully we won't be down here multiple days, but I have no idea. So, okay, that's great. So we did find some MREs in the lockers. All right. And some weird noises. I'm going to give it a listen. And I'll kind of walk around the room and listen at the walls, listen around. Do we hear any weird noises? 18. No. But we do see something involving high voltage shock or deception. Interesting. So while I'm looking around, hearing the noises and whatnot, I do notice that the power generator for this room was also damaged by the explosion from the hyperbaric chamber. And so it is my duty as a lamplighter to turn on the generator for each room for the preparation to whoever uses this facility. We have no idea what they do here or why they're here, anything like that. In fact, Hazmos doesn't care about that. They just care that we were told to light the darn thing up. We're going to light it up, by God. So now we're going to do our first skill check. We're going to do an intellect check. And we're going to use our mechanical repair skill, which is a plus 15. So I need to roll 2d10s, and I need to roll below a 56 in order to repair this generator well enough to relight the room. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and roll 2d10s. And bink. An 8. Wow, that's a good success. Now, it was a 3 and a 5, so it wasn't 2 4s. It wasn't a double. It wasn't a critical success, but we did successfully repair the generator. So now the generator has been repaired. I'm going to go ahead and record my findings in the memo con. So there were no crabs. However, the walls were dented and damaged. No crabs, no sign of crabs at all in the chamber. The hyperbaric chamber itself was completely destroyed. It looks like from an explosion, over pressurization perhaps, or maybe oxygen ignition or something. The floor around the wash basin area was also severely damaged. There doesn't appear to be water coming in, however. Maybe I should check for that to see, but there doesn't appear to be any water coming into the room. Also, we found a couple of 4 MREs in the lockers, and we were able to repair the generator in the room, even though it was damaged, presumably by the same explosion that damaged the hyperbaric chamber. Okay, awesome. So we got the Caisson area has now been cleared. So what we're going to do now is we need to go back to page 26. And I guess we need to actually, hold on. I think we need to go to our panic here. So before we leave the room, we need to roll a panic check. I don't know why, but that's part of this module, so whatever. We will roll a panic check, and the way panic works in Mothership is typically you will roll against your stress. Here, my stress is currently 2. As we do things in the adventure, our stress will rise and decrease. And normally in the game, when something really severe happens, you have to make a panic check. Like if you see one of your friends die, or if you see a cosmic horror of some sort, or you get severely wounded, or something supernatural happens, or your ship catches on fire, or you have a hull breach, things like that, you might have a panic. Well, in this case, in this adventure, we have to make a panic check after every section is cleared. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to roll a d20, and if we roll above, and unlike the stat checks, we have to roll above our panic. So if we roll anything above a 2, then we do not panic. Okay, so let's go ahead and roll our d20. We rolled an 8. Great. That's fantastic. So, no panic. If we had panicked, we would become dizzy, and we'd have to ignore critical successes. I assume for the rest of that section. Maybe for the entire adventure. I'm not sure. All right. Cool. We have successfully done that. So we pass out of the Caisson. It is now fully lit. And we are moving into the concierge. Thank you for watching Mothership, Module 1000 Empty Light. Next episode, we'll be moving on into the next section. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure and hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.